Have you ever been in a relationship where everything feels like it's finally clicking into place, only to have the other person just pull away? It is one of the most confusing and painful things to go through. And today, we're going to get to the bottom of why it happens. I mean, one moment you're making plans, you're dreaming about the future, you feel totally connected, and then boom. The next, you're staring at your phone, rereading old messages, just trying to figure out what on earth you did wrong. That emotional whiplash is just brutal. And if you've been there, you know how easy it is to start blaming yourself, to think it's something you said or did. But what if I told you that this sudden shift, this disappearing act, has way less to do with you than you think, and everything to do with a pattern they learned a long time ago? Yeah, this behavior, it's not random. It's a pattern, and it's tied to something psychologists call our attachment style. Basically, the blueprint we have for how we connect with people. And this specific hot and cold pattern, well, that is the signature move of what's known as an avoidant attachment style. Now, this is the really key thing to understand. This is not about a lack of love. Far from it. It's actually about a paralyzing fear of loss. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, it feels safer, it feels more logical to end the relationship on their own terms than to risk the agony of it ending when they're not expecting it. It's a defense mechanism. So we often see their distance and we think, okay, they're cold, they're heartless, they just don't care. But the reality is so much more complicated. So often, the truth is the complete opposite. Their actions are driven by this desperate need for control, a way to shield themselves from the pain they're absolutely convinced is coming. To really truly understand why they do what they do, we've got to explore this really strange paradox that's right at the core of the avoidant mindset. I know, it sounds totally backward, right? But for someone with this attachment style, the end of a relationship can actually feel like a relief. Because that constant nagging fear of when is the other shoe going to drop, it's finally gone. And what's left is a sense of control, even if they're standing in the middle of a heartbreak they caused. It's a really tragic cycle. You see, as things get better and intimacy grows, so does their fear of losing it all. And to get that feeling of control back, they create distance. They push their partner away, not because they want to, but to protect themselves from the pain they're sure is just around the corner. And this whole self-sabotage loop is powered by two really fundamental deep-down beliefs. The first one is that happiness is temporary, that good things are basically destined to end. And the second, that it's smarter, it's more rational to protect yourself from getting hurt than it is to chase after that happiness in the first place. So let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. You might be surprised to hear that sometimes it's the absolute happiest, most beautiful moments in a relationship that can trigger this whole cycle of fear and pulling away. Okay, so picture this. We've got a couple celebrating their one-year anniversary. The whole night is just perfect. It's full of laughter, they're happy tears, they're talking about their future together. It's a moment of pure, unfiltered connection. But then, the very next morning, that fear takes over. The intimacy from the night before suddenly feels dangerous. It feels like a threat, and he pulls away. Not because he doesn't love her, but because the thought of losing her after feeling that close is just too terrifying to handle. Here's another one of those weird paradoxes. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, praise, it can feel like pressure. It's almost as if you're putting them up on this giant pedestal and they're just bracing for the inevitable fall. They feel like they can't possibly live up to it. So what would happen is, whenever his girlfriend would praise him, he would almost instinctively push her away. He'd try to tear down that perfect image she had of him. It was his way of controlling the story, of protecting himself from the pain of eventually disappointing her. And this whole thing gets even more complicated when you realize that different attachment styles have a funny way of attracting their exact opposites, creating this perfect storm of emotional chaos. Okay, so this is where it really gets interesting. You have someone with an anxious attachment style. Their core fear is also abandonment. But their reaction is to move closer, to chase, to get reassurance. The avoidance, on the other hand, fears that very closeness, and their reaction is to pull away. You can already see the problem here. And here's the tragic twist. For some reason, these two types are often magnetically drawn to each other. It creates this incredibly painful cycle of pursuit and retreat. The more one person chases, the faster the other one runs. And it just leaves both of them feeling completely exhausted and totally misunderstood. So, the big question is, how do you break a cycle like this? Well, the answer is pretty counterintuitive. It actually challenges our most basic instincts about what it means to love someone and connect with them. See, you can't force someone with an avoidant style to be close. It just doesn't work. It actually makes them run faster. The real key is to create a sense of safety. It's about giving them the space they need to let their guard down, but on their own time. And this is where it gets really, really tricky. Because your instinct when someone pulls away is to get closer, right? To ask questions, to try and fix it. But what they actually need is the exact opposite. They need space to breathe without feeling pressured. They need patience to know that their silence isn't going to be punished. And they need to feel like they have some control. It's a completely counterintuitive way to show love, but sometimes it's the only way to build that bridge of safety. In the end, the heartbreak of loving someone with an avoidant style often isn't about a lack of love. It's about seeing this incredible vulnerability in them, knowing it's there, but just not being able to reach it. It's a huge challenge for sure, but with a whole lot of patience and understanding, it is possible to slowly, gently build a bridge to their heart.